video from my good friends at Inhala.com. Let's talk about serious business. Sleep apnea. Whether you've been diagnosed with it or afraid you have it, I've got the solution. Inhala is here to give you your life back by giving you your breath back. They make it easy to get help for sleep apnea because living without restful sleep is simply no way to live. Inhala gives you a custom-fitted oral appliance that opens your airway so you naturally breathe the way nature intended. The best part is they offer virtual consultations and in-home sleep testing. No overnight stays at a sleep center. Plus, Inhala has all the doctors that you'll need. Appointments are virtual, and it's all covered by your private medical insurance. Inhala does it all, from diagnosis to the delivery. Don't suffer from another sleepless night or daytime fatigue. Visit Inhala.com or call 844-INHALA-1. That's 844-INHALA and the number 1. Call now. 844-INHALA-1. That's 844-INHALA-1.
You know, it's interesting. Many people were drinking in the new year when the ball dropped, mostly champagne, other liqueurs. But to somebody like Rabbi Joe Potasnik, who may have been drinking Manischewitz or Mogen David, apparently that's the one wine that'll never give you a punishing hangover. Why is that, Rabbi Joe? Why is that?
I think that's why it took the Jews 40 years to get to the promised land rather than 1 year it was supposed to take, drinking that stuff. I don't know, Curtis. There are many who, and you would know because you're probably an expert on this, there are many who say that it's not real wine. That's not considered wine compared to the other wines. But it's very heavy. It lingers. I don't drink it much. I'm not a drinker. But there are many people who enjoy it. Now we're more sophisticated. We have all kinds of different wines, Manischewitz and other companies. So it's a different world. By the way, I want you to know, I listened to Vivek Ramaswamy, and I studied all night. I didn't go out. I read 5 books. So I want to keep up with his standard.
Yes, by the way. But
I mean, the good news is you were able to say his last name.
Yeah, I've been practicing. By the way, can I just make a recommendation? I did go to see last night The Complete Unknown, the movie. I recommend it wholeheartedly. About Bob Dylan. The acting is superb. You got some great actors there. It's worth seeing. It's a great story. You can sit there. You can go with your kids and be comfortable. So let me recommend it.
Rabbi Potasnik, we were talking the Democratic Party last week and the week before, and the Jewish people are were 60-70% Democratic. Why did this happen over the last? I mean, what happened with Roosevelt when he wouldn't allow the Jews to come into New York?
I have to tell you, when people start praising Roosevelt, I have a serious problem with that because as a child of survivors, Roosevelt, turned a deaf ear, a blind eye to what was happening during that horrific period. And Jews died. And by the way, it wasn't just Roosevelt. There were many organizations, including Jewish organizations, that were silent instead of shouting. So it was a shameful period, but Roosevelt doesn't deserve any exalted place in U.S. history for what he did. So I never understood why.
And even to now, what was the final between Trump and Harris? Do we know the numbers on the Jewish vote?
In New York, Trump got close to 40%, which is an all-time high. Around the country, I think it was 30% or 32%, but it was certainly higher than in previous years. So, people need to start asking. My father taught me this. When you go in to vote, you have to vote who's good for America, but who's also good for your people. And there's no contradiction between strong in Israel and strong in America. So I would hope that people ask that question instead of just doing that Pavlovian, pulling the lever or putting the X down just because someone belongs to a particular party.
So now, Rabbi Joe Potasnik, with this new administration coming in, unprecedented, he just swept aboard Trump. Every battleground state won the popular vote. What does this mean, though, for Jews, not just in Israel, but Jews here, who are under attack. I mean, we're seeing it north of the border. Incredibly, I'm getting texts every day. Drive-by shootings of female Jewish schools in Toronto, burning synagogues down in Montreal. Trudeau Jr. does nothing. What's going on out there, and what is it that Jews have got to wake up to?
You know, I was talking to the Cardinal. I said, if I were a Jewish kid or Catholic leader, I would think very carefully what school I'm going to go to for higher education. Not attend Columbia, not go to Harvard, go to University of Texas, go to Yeshiva University as I did, go to Catholic University. And I think Catholic leaders are saying, what can we do to make it more attractive for Jews to come here? Why should Jews give money to these schools that do nothing to stop the rise of hatred on their campuses, where administrators sit in their office and issue some kind of tepid statement, and they should be held accountable. One of the ways is don't give them money. So I was happy that some of the major benefactors stopped giving it. You look at the demonstrations at Columbia. You have students standing in front of buildings with Jewish names of Jewish contributors, those who built those buildings, and yet there are these protests going on, not just a protest about a policy, a protest about the existence of the state of Israel. So I think we have to rethink, this same old pattern it's not healthy for us. And we need to be proud Jews. That's what Hanukkah was all about, being a public Jew and a proud Jew. You don't have to hide your identity. And it's sad that today in some places there are those, who are putting the yarmulke in the pocket or putting the Jewish star underneath the blouse or shirt. This is not what we should be. But the only answer is to stand strong and stand together. Curtis, I'm glad to see you're on the trains now protecting people, not just because of anti-Semitism, but the craziness that goes on. We just can't allow this to happen.
I remember, Rabbi Potasnik, I remember when I was helping run Bill Clinton's campaign, and I would have a whole bunch of Jewish senators in our office, and they all had Jewish assistants. At what point did this shift? At what point? Was it during the Obama campaign or the Obama presidency? At what point did the Democratic Party shift against religion? Because overall they're against religion, and they're against Jews too. At what point did it happen?
John, it went back some years ago. I saw it during Obama. I started following that. One of the things I found, and this was very telling, at Columbia University, when there were demonstrations that were against Jews, when people were yelling, globalize the Intifada, we're with Hamas, go back to Europe, all of those ugly, ugly statements, who stood with them? Who came to stand with them? I remember Mike Johnson. I remember other members of the Republican Party. I didn't see some of our own leaders, and by the way, Democratic leaders. And when I say our own Democratic leaders, I mean Jewish leaders. Where were they? So it's not just about the assistance. When did Jews become silent, timid, and refusing to stand up and say what needs to be said? You're not going to be respected more by those who don't like you when you're quiet more. People don't respect, cowards. They respect courageous individuals. So
leadership.
It's not just about about assistance. It's about the head. If
now all of a sudden,
top,
Rabbi, all of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi has had, an oh crap moment. I mean, she fell down the stairs. She had a major operation, and she's still calling the shots in the Democratic Party. She has pushed out AOC.
Yep.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
Well, we all know that, but when did she have that moment? As she was falling down the stairs? I mean,
we call it a come to Moses moment. You would call it a come to Jesus moment.
Yes. Jesus, Moses, what the heck?
As long as there's been some kind of shift in thinking.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. We have a saying in Hebrew, Yesh Gvul, there are boundaries. There are times that you cannot, cross the line, and people have been crossing this line for too long, and others have said nothing.
Well, Rabbi Joe Potasnik, with the passing of President Jimmy Carter, it seemed as the older he got, the more anti-Israel, the more anti-Jewish he got. What do you think caused that?
he always saw this goodness in people, no matter what their background. He always thought that people could do better. And he would meet with terrorist leaders. He would meet with people who had committed dastardly acts and said, there's hope for the future. There was a naivete. I think part of it was his religious belief. He was, a liberal theologian. And it really hurt us. Sandy Eisenstadt, who was one of his assistants for years, said that Carter used to show him every book before he finished it, or when he just completed it. The one book he didn't show Eisenstadt was the book that said, peace or apartheid. He used the word apartheid talking about Israel. Israel, peace or apartheid. And Eisenstadt said, obviously, he knew that was a very offensive thing, but yet he didn't care. So I really think that, Jews, when we look back at Carter, we are very, very candid. Many of us. I just did a commentary about it. That Carter was no friend of the people of Israel in his latter years. Remember Ed Koch when he handed him that letter?
Yep.
Ed Koch, right? That was a major moment. And Ed Koch was a proud Jew, and that's what you need. You need the Koch kind of Jews, not the Bernie Sanders kind of Jews.
Well, just to put it in context, it was a letter to say, why are you using Andrew Young, ambassador to the United Nations, to back channel and meet with Arafat and the PLO, the terrorists?
Yeah, and where did it get us? Where did it get us?
It got you bubkis, it got you umgats.
That's another Hebrew phrase I never learned in yeshiva. But I got
it comes from Brooklyn.
Yeah. But Carter has a mixed legacy. He was great. Everybody said he was a great ex-president. He did good work, but when it came to Israel, look, I was there on the White House lawn when they celebrated the signing of between Sadat, and Begin, the Camp David Agreement. But remember, it was Israel that made that possible by relinquishing territory. He always wanted Israel to give and to do more, to make itself, very, very vulnerable to attack. That's what he thought was okay. Israel should do everything. The other side he was less demanding, and as a result, we saw years of warfare. We said you can't work with people. You can't sign agreements with people who are committed to your destruction. As Golda Meir said, what are you supposed to agree on? What time they're going to destroy you?
Rabbi, thank you. Thank you for coming on this New Year's morning and for your wise words. And we want our country to survive. We want our city to survive. And thank you for doing your part of it. And thank you for your part in doing it on WABC.
Thank you so much. And thanks for allowing us to be on the air as often as we are and keeping Curtis employed. It's very important.